and loving Jesus. And so I went, and within like 3 weeks of me going to influencers, it radically, radically changed my life. I saw men that were just incredible, incredible men that love God. And they had so much influence on my life, like you've never seen. Getting a chance to, you know, spend a year with these guys I mean, John Van Lenton changed my life. He's amazing. Um, Brad Newberg, um, just so many guys, Dan Bartel. And I got the chance to get to know these guys. And I'll never forget, I had just got plugged in. We went to Shaft for Teen Challenge to work a barbecue. And Brad was giving his testimony that night. And his testimony was one where, I mean, all he could talk about was how much God had radically just saved his life, saved his marriage. And I was praying nonstop for that miracle for me. And it gave me so much hope. Um, and one day at the gym, Brent had said, I just don't see, I see so many good things ahead, for you, I don't think, we were all so optimistic, God can do anything, right? And he can. A lot of that requires our willingness to obey him. And so anyways, I was praying big, praying for that miracle. And, then I got invited to a chance to go to Solely Business. And that story is so true. I had been on a waiting list, and I didn't think I was going to get to go. And at 7 o'clock, I had just left Journey Group, and I walked to my car, hadn't even started it yet. And I get a phone call from Les Piercy, and he says, "We had a cancellation. Can you make it?" And I said, "Absolutely. I have to go to work. I can't leave till 9:30, but I can be there by 11." And he said, "Well, it starts at 12." And so I get there, and guys, if you ever get a chance to go to Soli, if you haven't been, God does so many amazing things there. And I was listening to a lot of really great speakers, and Pete McKenzie came up there. And if you've ever heard Pete McKenzie speak, he's an amazing man. He's talking about how he's just begging God for a miracle, for his wife she's ill. And I mean, I can't even say I was fighting back tears, because I wasn't. I was crying. And so Pete McKenzie says, he just gets this feeling from God. And God says, "If I take your wife from you, will you still praise me?" And that was the moment right there. Of course, I cried like a little kid, but I just looked up and I said, "Yes, I will." And I always say that Pete McKenzie was sent there that weekend just for me. And we all know that's not true, but that's my story. And so, there's just, I don't know. I don't know what to say to that other than what Pete McKenzie said radically changed my heart, because what I was feeling was God was telling me that that wasn't in my cards, but that he had something really special for me. And, I looked at Pete and his life, and, what God did through him after he lost his wife. And all I could think about was, I'm in a good place. And I heard guys give their testimonies that weekend, and I gave mine, a lot of what I'm doing right now. And I did it with nothing but just tears. And what I tell people now is, now if you see a tear, it's because I can't believe how good God is. Where there, I was I was broken. Um, and I was angry too, and I was bitter. And I was like, because what I didn't see my faults in any of this. And then what I realized a little bit later is that, you know, I'm 100% responsible for my 50% of that failed marriage. And, you know, what would have happened if I would have continued to serve God, been the spiritual leader in my house, um, raised my kids throughout the back half of their childhood to serve God? Um, what they saw doesn't reflect that. And, so I have to live with that. Um, and, there's no guarantees that anything else would have been different. But, the odds would have been so much better in my favor had I continued to be the man of God that he wanted me to be and the spiritual leader in my home. And, I was so angry. I would tell people, I was like, this, I did whatever I could, and I got traded in for a 20-year younger guy that had a part-time job. And I was so bitter about that. And then I was talking to a man that I just admire and respect. And he was telling me a similar story in his life that had happened to him. And he pointed out to me, he said, Mike, um, you have to ask yourself the question, what weren't you doing to meet this girl's needs so that this person became more attractive to her than you? And, that's when I realized I had to own it. That's when all of these things came together. And I realized that, I wasn't a spiritual leader. I wasn't a godly man. Um, and I wanted to be. And so anyways, I just kept getting plugged in further and further with influencers, and every time I would get a chance to hear guys speak, um, I guess one of the people that really touched my heart the most is Franco. Um, I don't really know Franco very well. I know he's an amazing man. I named my dog after you, Franco. And if you know how much I love that dog, then hopefully that tells you how much respect I have for you. Um, but yeah, I mean, influencers has radically changed my life. Um, Guys like Les Piercy you know, just bringing me along, keeping me involved. Um, I think a really great story is right before I got to go to influencers. Um, I had met this really great girl, and when you know it, my phone is ringing and it's bothering me. So let me silence that. Um, so yeah, right before I got a chance to go to influencers, I had met this really great girl, and we had gone out on a date a couple, two or three times. And it was interesting because I actually met this girl online. And this is I'll sell myself out here with a quick story. I created a profile on christianmingle.com, and all of a sudden, like the next day, it shot up like this girl, and it said this girl's a 99% match. And so I hit the link, and it sent me to my little profile, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's beautiful. Um, and I started reading her profile, and she referred to our father as Papa. Um, and I mean, I could just tell that she had a heart for the Lord. And so I sent her a quick link, and I said, hey, I read your profile. I said, you sound like a really great person. And if you could read mine, and if I sound like somebody that you might be interested in grabbing coffee with, get back to me. Right before that happened, I had gone out of town to M6. And so she had tried to reply back to me, but I didn't answer. Um, So finally she, when I got back and I told her, yeah, I was at M6, and she knew what M6 was. I said, yeah, I'm going to M24. And, and she knew all these things. And she says, well, wait a minute, where do you go to church? And I said, I go to the Bridge. And she goes, oh my gosh, I go to the Bridge. Um, I guess about 3 years ago, the same thing had happened to her. She had a spouse that had walked out on her, and she just loves God. She went to the 8 o'clock service. I went to the 9 o'clock service. We literally sat 2 rows apart. Like, I have no idea how we didn't see each other. Um, and she always had saved a seat next to her. Wouldn't let anyone sit in it in case her husband decided one day to walk in and go to church. And so before I go to Soli, my door gets knocked on. It's 6 o'clock in the morning, and this girl is at my house as I'm walking out the door with a suitcase to pray for me before I go. And I knew right there, I said, that is the kind of lady that only God can bring in your life. And considering where I was, what I went through, um, what God has done to restore my life, and to bring a girl like that into your life that will not just pray with you, but pray for you, is something that I've never known, never had. And yeah, I'm so amazingly blessed. Les married us a year ago, or a month ago tomorrow. Um, and we've had the pleasure of going on short-term mission trips together, um, doing a couples journey group together with Les, and our relationship is 100% based on each of us loving our Father and then loving each other. And because we love God first, we really genuinely know how to love each other better. Um, and yeah, I really don't know a lot more to add to that. So good. He's blessed my life, and he's changed my life, and yeah, and I'm very grateful. So
Mike, thank you. Thank you for
yeah,
sharing with us. I love you, brother.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. For those of you guys don't know, when you shake a man's ear, it's a man's way of saying I love you. So Mike, I love you. I love what God's doing. You said a couple of things, Mike. I want to ask you a couple of questions. I go back to what you wish you had done. And you talked about your kids if you had raised them in this home. So I'm just going to be bold and ask, okay, your first marriage, what would you do different if you had to do over again? Spell it out to me.
Oh, I could do so many things different. I think the best advice I've gotten in a long time is advice that you gave me about 3 weeks ago, when you were talking about a friend of yours who said that if he had to do it all over again, pardon me, he would not have any recliners in his house. He would just have love seats. And so that is one thing I would do different. But I think the most important thing that I would do different is that I would realize that my responsibility is to be the spiritual leader in my home, and to be a godly man, and to raise children that know the Lord, and be a good example. And boy, I failed, so thank God for second chances.
I love the saying that you can't change the past, but you can change the future. So
Right.
you're married to Crystal now 1 month. What's going to be different going forward for you?
Our relationship is just, it's like I said, it is built on two people that love Jesus. And we're not going to abandon him, like I did in my first marriage. And um, I was sharing this with Mike Harrison the other day. The scripture, it's Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 32, and it says, would a young girl forget her jewelry, and would a bride forget her wedding gown? Yet my people have forgotten me day after day after day. And that's God speaking. And when I read that, I was like, before I found influencers, um, I lived like that for like 7 years. And I really believe that's, it cost me everything that I valued at the time, everything I cared about. Um, and I'm so grateful that God chose to restore me and bring an amazing person like Crystal into my life.
So, Mike, tell us, what are you doing daily? What are you doing weekly to stay plugged in to this walk with the Father, to abide with Him? What is the actual everyday experience for you now?
I would say that I love being in influencers. It's what I like to do. Um, I'm in 2 journey groups, and I've surrounded myself with men that are pursuing Jesus. So the company I keep is very important. Um, I listen almost entirely to Christian music. Um, I like where it keeps my mind, and I try my best to stay in the Word, and just stay close to God, and have an intimate relationship with Him, and like keep Him with me. You know.
So that's radically different than what I heard you say in your story in your first marriage. You were a Sunday Christian, you checked the box. So, what I'm hearing is that today your life has radically changed by spending daily time with Him. You're in groups, you're with men that you're held accountable to.
Yeah, and you were the person that said this to me. Well, and said it to a group of people that I'm in with you, and you made the point that when we show up on Friday morning or Sunday morning, or whenever we get together with other believers, it's to celebrate what God has done in our life all week long, what we've done with Him all week long, what we've learned about loving and abiding with Him all week long. Um, and that the church service is that's where we just go to get refreshed. That's not what you know what I mean?
I get it. So, I would ask you this a final question. Um, there was a time when my best friend left his wife, and I watched what happened in their marriage. And for me, this is going to be the question I'm going to ask all of you as you break into groups. It rattled me because I wondered, what if that happened to me? What if my wife chose to leave? And so I had this statement that I say to many of you: we're doing something today that our wife's going to leave us in 3 years, or we've done something 3 years ago that she's going to leave us this week. And so my question to you guys, as you break up into your groups, is what is it you need to do to up your game so that your wife doesn't do what his wife did, pack up and leave? And I want you to be honest. There may be some biblical answers you're going to say, like, I need to walk with Jesus every day. Yeah, yeah. But what are some other things that you need to do so that what happens in Mike's life doesn't happen in yours, where one day you wake up and it's over? And so that's my call. I'm going to have you guys break up. Gary will break you up. You're going to have 10 minutes. I'm going to bring you back in 10 minutes from now, and we'll close this out in prayer. So thank you for joining us. Gary, thanks for breaking up. Mike, great job. Thank you for being with us.
It's my pleasure. I've been waiting all my life to have a testimony worth sharing. So thank you, Lord.